Welcome to the Old Republic Podcast.
We are a podcast that discusses Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, general sci-fi, and about the stories that inspired a galaxy.
Consider this a spoiler warning for everything under the sun and the twin suns in that galaxy far, far away.
This is where the fun begins. All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Old Republic podcast. Today we are making our final character log entry for Knights of the Old Republic 2. It's been quite the journey going through all of the locations of KOTOR 2, all of the companions of KOTOR 2, talking about the characters, their stories, how they play into Mitra Surik's purgatory story, all of that stuff. And today we are finally getting to that one to Mitra Surik. But spoiler for the character, not even called Mitra Surik in the game, but that's probably what we're going to be referring to this character today as we go through this last entry. So. Cassia, how are you doing today? How are you looking forward to wrapping up our KOTOR 2 companion guides?
I am. Mitra is the titular character in KOTOR 2, and she's a very fascinating one.
That's right, absolutely. She is a fascinating character. Obviously, being the game, you can play the Exile as a male or a female character, but would later be canonized as a female character, at least in terms of the Knights of the Old Republic canon anyway. So let's talk about the character here a little bit. So Mitra Surik is a player character in Knights of the Old Republic 2, known as the Exile in the game. Do you know when Mitra Surik got her name, Cassia? It was in the Revan novel.
Yeah.
Revan novel is responsible for so much stuff. We really owe it a debt of gratitude there for sure. I could have sworn that Mitra Surik was called Mitra Surik in the game, but apparently I'm incorrect. Or Wikipedia
I think
is
it was
incorrect.
like at least
and,
a name that was available. I mean,
I believe that I'm probably more incorrect than Wikipedia in this instance. So yeah, I'm going to take their word for it. So similar here to the player character in KOTOR 1, as a large part of this game and your character's story revolves around, piecing together the memories. I read an interesting kind of interview with the writers of the game back when we were doing the Kreia episode. And in the interview, they said that LucasArts did not give them the full final copy of the original KOTOR game. Because it hadn't been released yet when they'd started working on it, and they wouldn't give them the beta version of the game. So they had to wait until the game was released to the public. So the only information they had was the little blurb about it on the website. So it had already been in development, KOTOR 2, for 6 months at the time when KOTOR came out. So you wonder why there was so much rush and stuff to get the game done, and why there's kind of the disconnect. But I thought that was interesting. I just wanted to make a point of that there. So yeah, that's kind of the character, right, who we're playing. So Mitra Surik is important in the confines of KOTOR 2, being the player character. She's finding the Jedi Council, the scattered members, and bringing about the defeat of the Sith Triumvirate. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess what do you think the Sith Triumvirate means?
I think it means there were 3 of them.
I'm trying to think of a way, what do they reflect in Mitra? That's what I mean.
Oh yeah, that's a trickier question. Certainly you get Darth Treya there. Betrayal Kreia, is obviously we're meeting Kreia within the game, acting as kind of the I don't even know if it's fair to say she's acting as the conscience of Mitra Surik as of the Exile necessarily, but maybe kind of in a weird twisted way. Go back and listen to the Kreia episode for more on her. But I think Nihilus is probably representative of kind of the damage and the rift that Mitra Surik caused in the galaxy. Right, as being the one, kind of that was, caught in the explosion of that and created because of that, right? So he's kind of like the, I guess, dark version of the Exile, maybe in that instance, there. And Scion, I think, is playing off of, kind of the, obviously in the game, you can make kind of the parallels that he's like a lustful character over Mitra Surik. So I think maybe that is meant to be kind of her psyche, her unwielding guilt. I think Scion is like a the representation of guilt for the character. Um, so yeah, to me, I guess you just put me on the spot. I think Nihilus represents um, kind of the history of the bad things that she did, and Scion is representative of her guilt. But what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, because it's like Scion never is able to let go. So I think it does kind of represent guilt. And then Nihilus, it's kind of like her equal, even though like Krea's there.
Mhm.
Can someone have like two equals, and they're
Sure,
three
yeah.
equals? Yeah, I don't know.
They're threequels,
Um,
yeah, for sure.
yeah, because it's like Krea's kind of like her mentor, but like I mean, we've kind of done our Kreia episode, and it's like, like Kreia is Kreia, like she teaches you things, but then it's kind of just like you're wrong no matter what you do. So it's
Mhm.
interesting. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It is interesting. Something else I found that was interesting. So apparently, originally in the early promotional artwork for the game and the game trailer, it inferred that the Exile was male, but that was never really given any sort of confirmation until 2006 in the book The Essential Guide to Droid. That established the character of the Exile as a female, and then again was established as a female in the 2008 KOTOR campaign guide for the role-playing game there. And then, of course, in the 2011 Revan novel, Mitra Surik is there named and female. So that's how the canonical gender for Mitra Surik came about. And we do have another tie to current canon, Cassia. So in the High Republic #2 comic book, the name Surik is used in that comic book, and Kevin Scott, who wrote that comic, High Republic #2, confirmed on Twitter that that name Surik was indeed derived from Mitra Surik. So I think we're up to KOTOR being 319% canon now.
oh yeah, you know, it's canon. They don't even need to make, a remake or whatever because it's just that canon amount
That
already.
that's less than canon. A remake would be. I think we're already like so far above and beyond that. So yeah, those are some little tidbits about kind of the background of the character. Let's talk about some background of the actual character, kind of the early life of here. So the KOTOR like canon version of the Exile here hails apparently from Dantooine, although we don't really know if that was her place of birth or not, but definitely grew up on Dantooine there as a young Jedi, brought to train there, and was trained under the tutelage of Master Kabar. That seems good. That seems like a good mentor to have, maybe.
Yeah, he did look nice too, I thought.
Well, there you go. There you go. If looks could kill, Master Kabar would be a-okay. That's right. But unfortunately, not all good. Master Kabar left to fight the Mandalorian Wars, so Mitra Surik was left to study under Vima Sunrider, from that lineage of Sunriders there, who's a little bit more standoffish, a little bit more cautious about Mitra Surik, and was very warning to young Mitra about overutilizing her force powers, including a very dangerous one, severing one's connection from the Force. So maybe one person's fear there, Vima Sunrider, becomes another one's bounty in Kreia, Darth Kreia, right? Sees that Force ability and wants to latch onto it. We talked a little bit about that in our Kreia episode, but yeah, that seems like something that would be very easily exploitable if it fell into the wrong hands.
Yeah, for sure. It is interesting how much of an impact, it has on KOTOR too. So, uh, uh, with we're talking about the mass shadow generator, right?
Well, this is her actual force power, right? To sever people's force connections, which was what Kreia wanted to use to rid the galaxy of the force, right? She knew kind of that Mitra Surik had this ability and wanted to capitalize it. So more of like the midichlorian based power here as opposed to the mass shadow generator, which did the same thing, I guess, mechanically at the during the Mandalorian Wars. Speaking of the Mandalorian Wars, Mitra Surik was recruited by Malik during them to join up the cause with Revan, and she did so
Yeah,
and became a general in his army, which eventually led her in the position to detonate said mass shadow generator on Malachor 5, which had some very damning repercussions for the galaxy.
for sure. That's kind of what we see in KOTOR 2 is like uh the remnants of the Mandalorian War. Even in KOTOR 1, honestly, it's such a
Mhm.
massive war. And I think you deal more with like the personal fallout of it, rather than the galactic impact, you know. Um, because I think like KOTOR 2 is about trying to rebuild, you know, um, and
Sure.
trauma. That's what I would say.
Yeah, definitely. It has, kind of the real world, parallels of, piecing, the world or this galaxy back together after a massive, galaxy wide or, a worldwide wide war. How do you put those pieces back together? And definitely the second game, dwells into that on a much more personal level. The Mitra Surik and, the companions and how they all came to be in her, kind of stewardship within the game, right? All having felt some effect from the actions that she took there on Malachor 5. So let's see here. Following the war, Mitra Surik was the only Jedi, apparently, to not fall to the dark side and returned to Coruscant to face the Jedi Council, where she was, dun dun dun, exiled. And apparently, you can find out in the game if you have a conversation with HK-47. You learn that Malik had wanted Revan to send HK-47 out to eliminate Mitra Surik, right, as a potential threat to their allegiance, I guess, to their side of the fighting. But Revan felt that you kind of after Malachor 5, after that had detonated, she had basically already died, and that her returning to Coruscant would kind of stick one in the face of the Jedi Council, right? Show them up for their hypocrisy of casting everyone out who went to this galaxy-wide war. So I thought that was kind of an interesting little tale that you can learn there. But yeah, you make mistakes, you go back to the Jedi Council, you might expect some forgiveness, some leniency, a chance to learn, but not here in the old Republic days. Say, get out, Mitra, out of here.
Yeah. Uh, so it's interesting. I guess like how do you think like her companions kind of mirror her? We've kind of like gone over it a little bit.
Yeah, we kind of, if you want to go back and listen to the episodes we did with the KOTOR 2 companion guides, you kind of get a little bit more detail about each of those. But just kind of off the top of my head here, going through the roster, you have Visas Mar, whose planet gets annihilated um, by Darth Nihilus, who was created uh, as a byproduct, I guess, more or less, of this mass shadow generator. So she has Mitra Surik to thank for that. Um, you have Mira, who is basically from some war-torn region and gets captured by the Mandalorians. That's kind of an effect of this war that's happened there. You have Mikal, who is left without master on the Jedi temple there on Dantooine, because Mitra Surik has left and gone off to fight in this war, so he's left without a master. That's had an effect on him, obviously. So kind of on and on you go through the different companions there. Were there ones that stick out specifically to you that weigh a little bit heavier within the story, or ones that I skipped over there? What do you think, Cassia?
I think uh we've kind of like mentioned in all in the different episodes um that we've kind of talked about them, but they all kind of like have connections like either to the Exile or to the Mandalorian War, like results of the Mandalorian War, so that was interesting to me. Just how everyone's connected in this game, like villains and heroes. I should have said heroes and villains, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
um yeah, and Um, yeah, they're great. And um I think one thing that is cool, we just have like a female hero or heroine, I guess, leading like a a video game, a Star Wars video game, and I thought that was cool.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. It's it's really neat to kind of have that and how it plays off of, kind of on the tail end of KOTOR 1, and kind of the events of the games are happening, almost simultaneously, really, which is kind of weird to think about, at least kind of in the first section of the game. But yeah, really everyone does. Obviously, you have Mandalore there who has ties, but yeah, they're all kind of interconnected to Meetra Surik, which is interesting and very different. In the first KOTOR, you have kind of these companions that are coming together because they're on board with the mission that Revan is looking for, right? Or Bastila in the unknown character that you're portraying there. But here in KOTOR 2, it's really all the companions are coming along, not so much because they care about the Sith Triumvirate or, finding the members of the Jedi Council, but they just are like intrinsically linked to Meetra Surik. And I think that's a more, um, I don't want to say a more interesting way, but definitely an interesting way and a much different way of building out your companions in a video game, right? Or, really in any kind of like heroes. Um, Journey type of story, you're usually getting companions because they're of some sort of like mind. It's not necessarily that they're just tied uh to your hero in the story. And I think that that's a really interesting way to tell that story.
Yeah, and the really cool thing is that KOTOR 2 is followed by KOTOR 3, and we got the whole trilogy. No, just kidding. Um
Although maybe it's okay that we didn't, if if LucasArts wasn't even going to like let whoever was making KOTOR 3 see this game, we could have gotten like another like unfinished sort of thing going on. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it was good. I don't know. Probably
the
not, but
unfinished
maybe.
that's complete. I don't know.
The
It's fine.
unfinished completed
The
trilogy, we would have
completed
gotten
unfinished trilogy.
we
I
would have
don't
gotten a
know.
whole new set of characters to learn about in the third one. We got the third one is the Revan novel, for sure. So that's where everyone's getting their names and stuff like that. So speaking of KOTOR 2, so to kind of round out Mitra Surik's story here a little bit, Surik ends up in the Outer Rim and is sent out to be picked up by the Republic. I think actually Atris was the one that said to go get her to bring her back, right? Because she wanted to lure the Sith Triumvirate out of hiding. That was a terrible idea, Atris, for sure. So they go get her. She's I guess on board the Harbinger when it gets attacked by that empty freighter, and Kreia is able to smuggle Mitra Surik aboard the Ebon Hawk, and that's when the game gets started off there with T3 quite literally putting out fires and saving the day, the real hero of the galaxy, T3 M4. But that's what gets us started into KOTOR 2. So that's kind of a little bit of the background on Mitra Surik.
Yeah. So we could talk about her forever, but kind of in a way, when we talk about the settings of KOTOR 2, the companions and the villains, like they're kind of extensions of her. Like we learn stuff from who she travels with, who she's fighting against, and where she is, and
Mhm.
who do you think like has the biggest like reflection on her?
Um, that's kind of hard to say, really. I mean, it's easy to say Kreia, I guess, but she's not really reflecting um Mitra as much as like maybe like putting up a mirror in front of her. But maybe it's not like that good of a mirror. Um, Almost. And we talked a little bit about through the KOTOR companion uh, episodes that we have done about the different KOTOR companions, about how the characters each kind of play out a role in Mitra Surik's like purgatory step, stage of this journey. And I think that definitely kind of happens within Mitra Surik in the confines of this story. So we'll talk about that here in a minute. But I don't know that one necessarily encapsulates everything that there is about Mitra Surik. Um, I think just kind of off the top of my head, I think Macau maybe was one of the most kind of influenced characters by Mitra Surik, right? Being abandoned, being left teacherless there. In that instance, it changed very much changed the trajectory of his life. I'd mentioned Mira, their same kind of thing, very much changed the trajectory of her life. Um, but yeah, I don't know necessarily that there's a real like mirror for Mitra Surik other than Darth Nihilus, but that's not a mirror that we really get to explore too much. You're kind of having to figure that mirror out for itself, I guess. Within, kind of what you know about these characters, it's um less, drawn, straight down the line there. I guess you could say probably the character of Atris, who's not a companion in the game, but she also is very intrinsically tied to this character as being, one of the most vocal supporters of exiling her in the first place. Tales of jealousy and rage and betrayal there abound for Atris on her way to get her Starbucks. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Do you have is someone more mirrored than the others that you see in the story, Cassian?
I used to just be like, ooh, Dirk Nihilus is just a stupid cool mask guy, but I'm like, oh, he does kind of like mirror her when you look into it. Uh,
I mean, he is
sometimes,
just he is that. But yeah, if you look at his story for sure.
yeah, like I think sometimes like Nihilus is just popular for the wrong reasons, you know? And yeah, and I think it's obvious that Kreia reflects a lot, you know, that uh that the exile has in her. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I guess like kind of now that we've kind of analyzed like Revan and the exile, um, if there were to be a KOTOR 3, do you think like there would have been an original protagonist for KOTOR 3 or like um Revan or the exile?
I don't know because by the time you get to the end of each of these characters' journeys within the game, like they feel like very complete, right? Revan has, bested Malik and, kind of restored order to the galaxy, right? It's gotten the massive super weapon there, back out of commission. So like Revan's story to me feels very complete um within that sense. And same for Mitra Surik, right? Ends up, reactivating the mass shadow generator, um, and kind of undoes all of her wrongs for the galaxy. So I guess the kind of the logical conclusion, I guess, and I guess it's stuff that we know what happened, between the conversations with Kreia and then kind of going forward in some media. Would it continue to follow along with Mitra Surik, attempting to, find Revan, uh, in the Outer Rim? Would that be the story that would be worth telling in that game, or would it be, bringing a third character into the fold, or just playing like The Sims with Bastila and Revan, like, decorating their house and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I
Or
don't
it
know.
could have been like between two protagonists, you know, like start off
Mhm,
with
sure.
Revan, then you have the exile. It's hard because they would probably have to canonize some aspects of their journey, and then maybe that
Hmm.
would have been too soon. Um, that's what I think I would have preferred because if it was the Revan, like maybe some people would be like, but I wanted to be the exile. And if it was the exile, some people would be like, I want to be Revan, you know. So,
Right.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It could either be like the two of them or a new third one. That's what I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah, I think it would almost have to be a third one. Like I said, I don't know like specifically like what story you would tell from either of them that would kind of combine both of their stories with unless it's just Mitra Surik out still trying to find Revan because I guess that was kind of one of the things she was doing kind of before the outset of KOTOR 2. So yeah, it would definitely be interesting. You could almost it would be hard to do it in the confines of a video game to tell a story then from the opposite, point of view. From coming from the Sith Empire to be hunting those two down, because I don't think that's the way you really want your video game to go necessarily to to make your final act hunting down these two heroes of the first two games. So I don't know, that would be interesting. It would have been hard. It would have been a hard job if KOTOR 3 would have happened. It would have been a really hard thing to have done, I think.
Yeah, for sure. So,
and I did want to throw this out. I'd mentioned a time or two here, kind of about the purgatory stories. We looked at Mitra Surik through kind of the lens of Dante's journey through purgatory here, because KOTOR 2 really is a tale of atonement, and we kind of saw some parallels to the different levels of purgatory. And I just wanted to make mention of this, the final stage of purgatory here for Dante and Virgil going through there. The final stage is lust, and that presents the way out of purgatory. And in the stage of lust, pertinent souls must run through a wall of flames and come out pure on the other side of purgatory. So, Cassio, what do you do at the end of the game? You quite literally explode an entire planet into flames, and Mitra Surik comes out the other side, presumably pure and out of her own personal purgatory. So, I don't know if their intention was to go a purgatory route with the storytelling for Mitra Surik, but it sure seems
we'll pretend it was.
It sure seems like it, going through all of these character journeys and different stages of it that we saw. So
yeah. Then let's see, what else. Pie flavor do you think she would have?
That's right, saving the best and most important stuff for last. What sort of pie would Mitra Surik want? I don't know. I think if you're hanging out with Kreia all day, you probably feel like at the end of it, you probably feel like you're not worthy of having pie. Like Kreia has convinced you that you're not good enough for pie, maybe at the end of the day. But I think she probably still has a favorite pie flavor. I don't know. It'd be something that's complex and interesting. But easily accessible, right? She's still like trying her best to live that Jedi lifestyle. So I don't know. I think maybe like a cherry pie would be good, because that's something that's readily available, but the flavor for cherry is a little bit nuanced. It has a little bit of like darker tones to it, but it's still sweet. So I guess cherry pie. I guess that's the one I'm picking.
For me, I'm saying key lime.
Key lime pie. Okay. Any particular reason other than key lime pie is delicious?
I don't know. It just kind of has that flavor. It seems light side-esque, not blue, and not purple, and just kind of fresh. So that's what I would think personally.
And there you go. Maybe it's just like one of those like whipped cream pies she just throws in the face of Kreia at the end of the game. Says, "I'm not listening to you anymore. Kreia, get out of here." So maybe one of those. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. So, yeah, the pie flavor journey was also fun to go through here for these characters.
Yeah, for sure. Is there any other thoughts before we conclude?
That, I think, is going to wrap it up, at least on my end here for Mitra Surik. Kind of went through like her origins there, a little bit of the background of the character, and then ultimately kind of what made her tick. And one of the things about Mitra Surik here, the player character, I guess the Exile, really for the standpoint of KOTOR 2, is really her story is contingent upon everyone else's story to be told throughout the game, similar to Revan in that instance in KOTOR 1, right? Revan doesn't really have much of a story in the original KOTOR. His story is being told by those companions, and it's the same kind of thing for the Exile here in KOTOR 2. So really, the story of the Exile is the story of the companions, and that felt very poetic when I just said it, so hopefully it made sense. So
yeah, so I guess may the force be with you always.
The Old Republic podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, as well as everywhere else that Anchor podcasts are distributed. Subscriptions, reviews, and shares help us out.
And if you want to connect with the podcast on Twitter, we can be found at Old Republic Pod. And if you want to connect with me, I can be found on Instagram at astro_droid_.
You can find us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Old Republic Podcast. Our intro and outro themes were composed by Dennis S. Mowers at DennisSMowersMusic.com.
This episode of the Old Republic Podcast has been brought to you by Nicky Dog from Patreon. May the Force be with you. We will be back soon. Bye for now.